Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. How are you all today? I hope that you're lovely and warm. My guest is lovely and warm today, and I am freezing. We've had a bit of a cold snap here. So we've got Emma Park back. I was really excited to ask her to come back, and she has agreed. And she's an accredited functional nutritionist based in the Mornington Peninsula. And now she has two roles, and that's why I wanted her to come back today and talk to us, because not only is she a nutritionist, so seeing clients one-on-one, and she's a community health educator, but she's also a clinical educator for Puremedic, so Qiara Products. So she's an industry leader in the field of gut health and the microbiome. And I really wanted to talk to Emma today about being a rep and what repping involved, and this duality of life that we all have, because many of us have these two roles. But what's so special about Qiara as well? There's so much to learn from our reps, even though we have this, that's telling us we're just being doctors and then we're just being told what to do and all the rest of it. But I actually find my reps to be really, really helpful, because I learn other things, and they come because they're practitioners as well. So I get to learn a load from my reps. I love my reps when they come to see me, and it doesn't actually make me use products more, because I use the product when I need it for a client. And the Qiara Probiotics are actually quite specific, aren't they, Emma? So tell us about them and tell us about yourself in this role.
Okay, cool. So thanks for having me on again. First of all, probably I should say I'm not actually the classic rep. That's not my role. So when I first started working with Qiara, it was as their clinical educator. So there was a little bit of a time when I did a little bit of repping. I think actually when I first met you in Adelaide, when I came over there, because the lady that was the sales account person was having family stuff, and so she couldn't do it. And so I was like, I'll have a turn at doing that. And what I learned from that was what I actually wasn't very good at that bit, but what I was really good at, I just didn't love it. I didn't love that bit, but what I did love was doing the education. And so my first role with Qiara was doing an education presentation about that specific probiotic in maternity care and for breastfeeding outcomes, because Qiara is a breast milk probiotic. And I think one of the big differences with this company is it's a really tiny little company. Like when I first joined the team, there was only the CEO, 2 salespeople, and me as the educator. So it was very, we were really close. It was quite a unique opportunity and a unique role. So yeah, the first thing was going to present to a bunch of maternal child health nurses at an education day. And then I was like, I love this, like I'd already done a bit of sort of education before, as far as, community education and speaking to groups. And I'd done some stuff at the local high school, speaking to teachers about nutrition and that. And I knew that I really loved doing education. But then, yeah, when I got this role with Qiara, I was like, this is awesome. And I think, like I said, it was quite unique because of the small company. And so with that, we were able to, the role, I guess, developed organically as the company grew as well. So again, that's quite unique, especially from my experience. So we were able to then, a part of that role was going to a lot of the professional conferences as well in that sort of maternity care field. So midwives, lactation consultant conferences, obstetric conferences, so I learned a lot about that field. Not only did I get to go to the conference and, talk to and engage with all these health professionals and tell them about this great probiotic and the scientific research behind it, but also got to listen to all the experts talking. So whenever there was a topic that was, up, whether it's nutrition or gut health or microbiome, which in saying that, like 5 or 6 years ago when I started with the company and we were going to those professional conferences, there wasn't much talk about that. But over those last years, it was so good to see that at these, professional conferences, that there was a discussion around the microbiome and how that was impacting, and looking at the scientific research and educating. But there was, when you're talking to those health professionals from those fields, there wasn't much education. There was actually a really big gap there. So again, that was like a really really rewarding position to be in, to be able to do that education and make a difference. And I think that for any rep or educator, from that perspective, to be able to engage and empower your colleagues is a really important role. And like you said, it's like you can totally learn stuff from your reps and educators. It does, they're qualified, passionate specialists. Like I became such a specialist in that field because of that role. And then I guess also my passion to make sure that I was presenting, unbiased research as well.
I mean, that's something perhaps we should say here is, I love my reps, but I do take things with a pinch of salt if they're not out working in the field as well. And a number of them aren't. And
that's true.
I think it's really important because you're talking about conferences now, and those are unbiased conferences that you're going to, and those unbiased conferences that we have access to here. The NHAA has an international conference. The ATMS will put on symposiums and conferences. So when we get those non-biased education, we have to take that opportunity and we have to go for it. So I've just this year, so the MHANZ, I might have got those letters around the wrong way, just had an online conference. So that's the Naturopaths and Herbalists Association of New Zealand had an online conference, which I delivered at. But anyway, so everyone in New Zealand knew about it. People in Australia wouldn't know about it. But it was all non-biased education. And then coming up in September it's just been moved actually, is the NZAMH, the New Zealand Herbalists and Naturopaths Association. Let's just put the letters around the other way and confuse everyone. Come on, guys, good one. But that's again an international conference. So unbiased education, and unbiased education is really important because it's just an amazing, almost eclectic sometimes collection of talks that happen. You learn so much, and because there's so many speakers on, you choose, I'm going to go into that room and listen to that person, I'm going to go into that room and listen to that person, and as a presenter there was at a trade table and delivering, you also get to go into all of them as well. So it's amazing going to conferences. People who are listening, do not underrate a conference. If you're thinking, will I buy this company education, will I go for dinner with this company education, or will I save my pennies and go to the international conference? Save your pennies every time, without a doubt. Save your pennies. I go to every NHAA international conference, and you don't have to be a member of the NHAA to go. So let's just
love a good conference, love a good, like I said, I was really lucky in my role because that's quite unique to be able to go and do that, and then also be allowed to go and listen to the presentations as well. And one of the things that again is super unique about Qiara is when I was starting to do that education and talking about that strain of probiotic for having clinical effectiveness in maternity care and breastfeeding outcomes, I said to them, I was like, there's other strains that have got good research for that different applications, so for GBS and for atopy and that. And I said, we should be talking about those strains in the education, because I said at the end of the day, we want the mums and bubs to have the best outcomes. And again, it's super unique that I went to the CEO and said, can I talk about these other strains alongside the Qiara strain in this education module? So this is accredited for the Australian College of Midwives from ANTA. It's education based, but I said I kind of got it across the line. I didn't have to push, but I was like, it makes our research look really strong as well, because Qiara's got some really good solid research for breastfeeding outcomes, and they're continuing doing research on that strain. But to be able to put other strains in, and that's why we got the accreditation, essentially, because it is unbiased education. So then I was able to go and present that education at work at conferences. So we did that at the Australian College of Midwives National Conference, not last year, obviously in 2019. I was due to do it again coming up at the National Conference in Sydney. Obviously that's not happening this year, but we might get an opportunity to do it online. But so again, as an educator, I really do try and keep it unbiased, and I'm lucky that I get to work for a company that lets me do that. So again, that's pretty unique. But again, but like we said before, it's like that for people to, as an alternate job to just doing clinical practice, for me, it's awesome, because I think for me personally, just doing one-on-one consultation it's pretty hardcore. And if you're working on your own, because I work from home, that you're seeing your patients but not working within a group of, or working within a team. I really love that about it as well. So for me, it's a really nice balance.
Yeah, I've always had to have the balance. On the odd occasion where I've decided to step back and do one thing, I just haven't enjoyed it. I've needed to have something else. So yes, I had nursing, and then I had naturopathy and nutrition and herbalism. And then from there, I became a lecturer. So then I dropped the nursing because I was lecturing and naturopathy. And then from there, it was, so now the lecturing all just stopped in 2020. So I've built more and more in that time into the mentoring. And that's why I've got a podcast now. That's why I've got the time to do these other things. And it's why I created the academy, so that there's a group space for people to be in. Because when we do work from home and we're by ourselves and we haven't got that other job, let's not forget that having a family is another job, but that's the same people every day.
Yeah, that gets pretty boring pretty quick.
We know those people already. So, and, so totally, we've got the family. I mean, there was a time there for me, and I'm sure there was for you as well, where you had to focus on family and there was just a little bit of work outside of that. And then the work grows as the family grows up.
Yeah. Totally. I went back to uni when my kids were in primary school. So I was a mature age nutritionist. Like I, did a lot of stuff before that. But when I realized what I wanted to do when I grew up, I was already 30 something. So I went back to uni when my kids were in primary school. And that was a real balance. It took me 5 years to finish my degree because they were little. I was a single mum, but I knew, I was super passionate about it, and I knew what I was doing was right. And that's the same as when I got offered the job with Qiara, like it was would you like to do this role? And I was like, yes, like I would love to do that. I hadn't done that kind of stuff before, but I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And like you say, things change and it grows organically. And then you take the next opportunity, or you go, I see a gap, we talked about in the other podcast about a gap in the, knowledge base of your client. So you can create an online program, like, to be able to do different things is great. And I think in our profession, we really have the opportunity to do whatever we want, and it's really cool. So to be able to and learn as you go, and you never stop learning. Never. And I think, again, like what you're saying about conferences, it's such a great source of education and unbiased information, and you can just you see what other people are doing. It's also great, I mean, ideally when we can go in person to engage with other people and make bonds with our colleagues. And I think our profession is amazing like that. Now we have that collaboration kind of thing, and we're willing, there's lots of people out there that have done that before you and that are willing to help.
The conference, the feel of being at a real conference is amazing and can't be passed up. When that opportunity arises, you just have to make it happen, even if you're sleeping on someone's floor up in wherever it might be. But I remember the first conference I went to was in Canberra, an NHAA one, and so I had to take the whole family because the kids were really little. She was a toddler. Eve was a toddler. So I couldn't really leave everybody in Adelaide and go to Canberra. So I made everybody come with me. And it was just so exciting, that very first one. But I did go in, I came home. My husband goes to conferences all the time. And I went home and I said, one of them was, it was like 40 minutes of my life. And I wasn't sure about being in this room or that room. And I chose this room. And then I stayed because I didn't want to leave. And he just looked at me and he went, you don't like it, in the first 5 minutes, you get up and you leave in the first 5 minutes, you just go. Then they have to know not to take it personally, that in actual fact, you aren't interested in their topic, or the topic isn't as you thought it was going to be. So, but get up, do it quietly and do it quickly. And I was like, I wish you told me that before.
Yeah, before. That always happens, isn't it? Sometimes, good conferences and you're like, there's 3 breakout sessions or whatever. Like, I want to go to all of them. I love the ones that go over a few days and they repeat them, so you get an opportunity to maybe go this one this day and the next one the next day. That doesn't always happen though. But,
no, it doesn't always happen. So breakout rooms are great, but at the same time it's like you're left going, no, what do I do?
And then you catch up with all your friends and colleagues after, and you're like, what happened in that one? Or you remember when we went to that, I can't remember which one it was. Like, take notes for me in that one because I really want to come and I'll take notes for you in this one. So that's another
we'll swap notes.
Absolutely.
Get all the information. So conferences are amazing. Working with, in 2 jobs is kind of, you can sort of go, it's too much for me. But what I always found is seeing too many clients was actually emotionally too much for me, emotionally draining, because, you know, they're sick. That's why they're seeing you. They've got a lot going on. And so you've got all of their problems, and you're wanting to research them and do all of the things. And I've always found I had a maximum. If I went over 15 a week, if I didn't have somebody else in there, so if I had more than 15 a week, I get a student in with me or a new graduate. I did, because then they could make the herbs or do whatever it was that needed doing while I was seeing the client. Now, of course, I'm online. It's a bit different because I get other people to make it. Everything's farmed out. I've changed it all. So everything comes from wholesalers now and drop shipped. So there's very little coming directly from me. So that's freed up time.
But we didn't have that. You couldn't do that before. That whole online dispensary for practitioners is new. That's only happened in the last few years, right? That was a godsend when you're in a small clinic or a part-time clinic to not have to have a dispensary. Like, that was a game changer for me.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Absolute game changer. I used to carry, so you obviously can't see, and those people who are listening on the podcast won't be able to see, but I've got a fireplace in the middle of the room, and both sides are shelves on the fireplace. And at the top is all books, and at the bottom on the left is books, but all through the central area was all nutritionals. I had another cupboard full of nutritionals on the right-hand side of the fireplace, that entire, all the way up. I need a ladder to get to the books. That is all herbs and nutritionals. And I had another shelf as well that was full of herbs. So now I've reduced it down. It's definitely probably a third to a quarter of what it used to be.
I don't have a dispensary at all.
And I only have a dispensary because I've still got those herbs.
Yeah, to use them.
So I'm trying to use up my herbs. So, and I do get nutritionals, excuse me, because I can't help myself. I'll see something and I want to try it. So, you know, and as people who are in strictly education and support, and they'll see me shaking my bottle, or any of the groups that I run, they'll see me with my bottle full of powders, because I do like a powder. So I'll take the herbs and I'll take the powder. Lousy with tablets. But that's the thing, is there have been so many changes, and we've learned so much as we've gone on. And there are so many people out there who can help us. There's mentors and there's groups. I've got the academy. We've got these places to go. But at the end of the day, I sometimes think we need that other outlet. We need that other job to, it's kind of uses a different side of our brain. You know, just seeing the one-to-one client, I think can be very stressful, and I think we head to burnout that bit faster. But
it's pretty draining. It can be pretty intense, and because we get the very complex, very, you know, often, not always, but a lot of the time our patients are very complex, or that their end of their health journey, and they've, you know, like seen a million other practitioners or doctors, or came out the other end of mainstream with no answers. You know, they can be pretty sick by the time we get them.
Yeah. And so having this another outlet, and sometimes, because in our last podcast, we talked about your program. So even if somebody doesn't have another job as such, having a program is still another outlet, and working, because we have to have another outlet, I believe. So it might be that you don't have another job and you're an artist, or you're a gardener,
totally,
or you know, you are just doing the one-to-one, but in actual fact you have another outlet. So perhaps rather than calling it another job, I should call it another outlet, because there's another, having a balance, making sure we're really balanced, so that we avoid that burnout, which is really prevalent in our industry, because, you know, there's nobody there, or there's no other outlet, and you're just going and doing that job. You're going home, and then you're trying to wind down from that job, and yet you're not, because you're still studying your clients and doing the things. So you've got to have that other outlet, and a proper regular outlet, I feel.
And I think knowing, and for something that you're passionate about as well, and you love, that's like, you know, talking about some kind of creative venture, or gardening, or earthing, or, you know, whatever. Those things are really important as well, because then they come into self-care. But what I was thinking of, there was a time in my career where I was doing 3 or 4 different things. So I was also doing the Indigenous education. So I was going into remote communities. I was working for Qiara doing the education, and I was doing private practice as well. And it was, my hats got a bit too, you know, confusing. And it was like, I felt like I was kind of doing all 3 things, but none of them that well. And I had to take a step back and go, where do I want to put my energy? And so I kind of had to choose out of the Indigenous education and the Qiara role, doing the education for them. And it was what gave me more joy, what was more rewarding, what was making me happier, what did I feel like was making more of a difference. And that was how I decided which ones to sort of streamline it into. And at the time, it was hard working in that Indigenous education space, and so it was an obvious choice to me to move into the Qiara education more and just sort of keep those two roles, because I did feel I was spreading myself a bit thin, like I said. So it's like that can happen too when you're a yes person. I'm like, every opportunity that comes my way, I'm like, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Well, I'm still parenting teenagers and stuff like that. But yeah, that would probably a little bit of advice that I'd go, if you feel like you're spreading yourself out too much, you come back and, choose the things that are really rewarding and that you really love.
Yeah, totally. Really have a pros and cons. If you're worried about where you're going and what you're doing, have a pros and cons. And with that pros and cons, have almost another section of where can I go with this? So it's all very well saying, I want to work in the shoe shop. I want to work in one-to-one practice, and I want to carry on being a nurse. So where are you going to go with those things? So what is that shoe shop going to give you? It's going to give you some exercise, running up and down, getting shoes for people, and standing up and down and squatting. So that's an alternative probably to a gym membership, but that's about it. And sometimes we have to go, that isn't going to get me any further. One-to-one, what can I do as well with that? Well, I could do programs. I can, I keep my own brain going. Yeah. I'm seeing people, I'm meeting people. I could learn something new. I could learn another modality because I will be able to use it within what I'm doing. That's
or you could specialize and you could niche, that's.
And niche.
Yeah.
That's the other thing as well, I should say, is it's all very well learning all these different modalities, but how do they fit into your practice?
Yeah.
How are you going to use them?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with that knowledge once you have it? How will it expand your practice, and what will you do with it? Where will you go with that?
Yeah.
So lots of everyone with questions today.
I know, that was cool. And one quick add-on, I would say that about that learning other modalities. I've done that a bit recently in that last couple of years through doing my own education and doing my own development and coaching. And so now I've actually done training in coaching, and I've combined the coaching in with the nutritional medicine, and that's been a really good complement. You already do a bit anyway, like we're already always doing that when we're consulting and working in private practice, but I've really developed that skill set, and I'm doing a lot more of that now. So I do obviously the physiology as well, but a lot of that sort of behavioral stuff, and that's been a really great way that my practice and the way I'm consulting has moved forward. Again, totally organically. I've been doing the work for myself and going, oh, this is so important. I can't wait to share this with my clients. And that's been really nice.
Yeah. So which brings me along to the fact that I'm bringing out a coaching course for nutritionists and naturopaths, because exactly the same. I did my coaching course years ago. And then of course I did my hypnosis, which hypnosis has a lot to do with NLP and communication and the coaching. And then I keep getting it from everyone is, how do I get these people to stay on? How do I get them to do what I want them to do? I've told them to do this and they won't do it. No, nobody's going to do anything if you tell them to. So the coaching course is coming out in October.
Cool.
So
that's for practitioners to learn how to do more coaching with their clients.
So so it's coming out, it's for practitioners. So it's for one-to-one practitioners. So really you probably don't even, nutritionist, herbalist, naturopath, homeopath, anyone who's doing a one-to-one consult who's got that physiology background, who's trying to get somebody to change habits, not just to, you want to get them to exercise, but people have to take that change on themselves. And that's what coaching is all about, is getting them to do it, not you.
Yeah, because most people know what to do, but they don't do it, right? And just addressing the physiology will get them so far, but then the underlying behavior, the underlying belief systems, the programming and all of why they're sabotaging, like all of that stuff. And that's all the coaching stuff. And it's like been a game changer for my clients as well, because you can get people so well with physiology, but they'll either fall off the wagon or come back and sit, like, oh yeah, my gut health is heaps better. A year later, they're ringing you back. Oh, I'm back where I was. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the evidence as well, as it takes a year to change a habit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you've got to be coaching these people. And that's why big programs work. Weight Watchers is successful because they see everybody once a month or once a fortnight or whatever it is. And yes, it's for a weigh-in, but they're seeing everyone and they keep them motivated because you're changing a habit. And if you don't spend a year changing that habit, the body doesn't really change. So, and we have to do that in a positive way. And that's what the coaching is all about. So I found it a totally necessary component once I wasn't, so how long ago did I do it? Oh, that certificate's behind a screen, can't see it. 5-6 years ago, something like that. But what I had noticed is my nursing, I would say, do this, take this, take this. And I mean, you can get that off the internet. But if you don't have the right way of getting them to go, I will take it. I will do this. Let me do that. And that's what the coaching is. That's changing the mindset so that they're in charge and they're congratulating themselves and they understand their whys and wherefores and the underlying reasons that they aren't doing what they're doing. So it's really interesting. But so my course is coming out so that we can connect our so thank you for bringing that up without even knowing about it.
I didn't know about it, but it's like I said, I've done numerous training in different coaching methods and with different coaches, and then sort of like I'm sure you develop your own way of doing it and what works, and specific for our profession as well, to be able to pair it with that physiology is just really powerful for clients. And there's a lot of people out there that need that, so it's good. I think it's really good that we're, because when you go to uni you do a little bit of counselling. I think you do two semesters of.
I didn't have to do it because I was already a nurse.
And I remember doing foundations of
weekends.
counselling or something, and it was like direct questioning or open-ended questions, just all stuff that you were already doing anyway, like being a good practitioner, being able to build rapport with people and read people's where their needs are at, how much information you can give, all of those things, skills that make you a good practitioner. But you can also learn that stuff as well by doing a bit more training in that area if you're a little bit not as confident. I think for me, because I was a mature age student, I had a lot of life skills that I was able to put into that. I was already good at talking to people and making them feel comfortable, building rapport, those kind of things. But if you're a new grad and a younger one, then you maybe not as confident in that area, then it's a great area to do some more training in.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing is being older, because I was an older one as well, and that you're a bit set in your ways. So it's really good to do a course that reminds you that in actual fact, it's not about do this, do that. Remember, we have to talk, we have to ask, we have to get them on board. And so as a mature age student, there was a bit of change of mindset for me. And it was very eye-opening. I remember, and I still use what I learned then. And so, it's time for me to teach it. But anyway, enough about me.
Awesome.
Thank you, Emma, for coming back and talking to us about that variety of what goes on with you and your life. And we had a really good chat about these conferences and about combining things. It's been great.
I thought so. We covered a lot of ground in that. It was good. Yeah.
It's been great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And listeners, do the usual thing, please. I'd love you to give me a 5-star review if you wouldn't mind, and make some comments on your preferred platform. So thank you very much for spending some time with us, and I'll catch up with all the listeners soon. And thank you so much, Emma, for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was awesome.